Weekend in Omaha. Love Nebraska returns to Baxter Arena for back-to-back home matches on January 30th and February 1st, facing Love Madison and Love Austin. 2 matches, 2 chances to see your hometown team compete as the season heats up. Featuring Lexi Rodriguez and Jordan Larson taking on the likes of Lauren Carlini and Maddie Skinner, and special moments throughout the weekend. This is your opportunity to catch all the action live. Make it one night or both nights. Get your tickets now at lobbneb.com/tickets.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
In every office, there's 2 types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top-quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to Bock in the Blackshirt.
Terrell Farley.
Defending Terrell Farley, who last week in his first start was a holy terror, number 43.
And Jake Bockoven. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Powered by Bauer.
I hope you're warm out there, trying to stay warm here on a frigid day in Lincoln, Nebraska. We are warm enough here in studio. I'm Jake Bockoven. He is Harrison Arns jumping in the studio for Terrell Farley. He'll be back on Monday, but it's good to be able to do a show, get in the booth here with you, Harrison. We've been working together for quite some time, but we don't often get to do much radio together.
Yeah, so who are you? No, it's fantastic hopping in here today. Would have appreciated a nicer day out there. My Lord, yeah. My car was screaming trying to turn over this morning. But, yeah, nice to be here at the day mix. I was happy. Thank the Lord that the mill's still open so I get a hot cup of coffee. That certainly helps out the case. But yeah, it's not like there aren't plenty of things to talk about in the sports world. So happy to be here on the daytime hours. I know I'm someone, I don't know what you'd call me, the vampire ticket, but yeah, something like that. First time hearing my voice. Yeah, I work 6 to midnight most of the times, but nice to be here during the daylight.
Yeah, and while we're at it, if it is your first time kind of hearing about ticket weeknights, there's so much to offer there, Harrison. I'll go ahead and give you a sales pitch. But it's if you've missed out on DP, well, first of all, we would say shame on you. He's been trying to promote it for the longest time, and as well he should. It's great stuff, Harrison. What is if you're just a daytime listener, what is Ticket Weeknights all about?
Yeah, I think yesterday would be a good summarization of what you're not going to get the exact same format night in, night out, but just for reference, like yesterday, shout out Nuri. He used to have a show here, obviously former Husker lineman, and kind of endeared himself to Husker football for a while there. He was on here last night. He hopped on with Emma Spence, who's a former gymnast. Obviously, she was part of that Canadian Olympic team as well. She's got a show. Ashley Mitchell's had some great guests. Sam Hoiberg hopped on last night with Arden Lockheim. Arden Lockheim, obviously, he's calling Big Ten Plus network games. So there's some really good talent. And then, like I said, you're going to get those interviews with guys like Sam Hoiberg that, they're busy guys. You guys aren't able always to grab them during the day. At night, opens up a little bit. So you get some of those interviews. And then Tuesdays are loaded. We get head coach Mark Manning. You get the national champ, Ridge Lovett. And then you get now associate head coach Jalen Reyes.
That's right.
On Tuesdays as well. So, like I said, if you're not privy to it, if you keep your eyes on some of that Ticket Weeknight stuff, and I know some of you guys have been, just looking at the numbers, every now and then, and more often than not, we do have some really great talent and some great guests in there, and you get some of those one-off interviews that are kind of tough to pull off during the day hour. So definitely check it out. You can always, they all got podcasts. It's all on YouTube, but it's drastically different than what it was when I first got here. I'll say that much. It's much improved, and like I said, check it out if you haven't yet. Yesterday's a great one. Just for example, you can go back, listen to the Sam Hoiberg interview. It's kind of cool to hear his story.
Yeah, it is. To your point, it has grown quite a bit. The idea is to keep growing here at the station and give you as much as we can. And a big part of that is the weeknights. And so it is fun just to see the progress of that. But we do welcome you here to the daytime. And appreciate you getting some coffee. Is the coffee needed? It's 1 o'clock in the day. But your time period's a little thrown off, right?
Yeah. The clock's a little squirrely to get used to, but no, the coffee was absolutely essential. It was one of those mornings, Bock. Do you have a garage?
Somewhat.
Where because you got to share it sometimes. I am one of those. I don't have a garage, so I got to do where you sit in your car and you just kind of swear and mutter to yourself for a few minutes.
Oh, yeah.
While you're waiting for that thing to warm up. So it was one of those mornings. The coffee is greatly needed. Come down here. The mill's open till from 5 p.m. on Fridays. Good for a pit stop if you're out there bearing the weather right now, because Luke definitely hooked me up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know. Sorry, I froze there. If you ask if somebody have a garage, they should probably be able to answer it. I have a dilapidating garage that I use as a storage facility more than anything. But when it gets cold enough, I will. Like last night, I cleared it out, put it in there. I'm worried someday the garage might just fall in my car the one day that I do that, because that is when the wind, might be picking up and all that. So
just put some, some braces on the outside. Be one of those neighbors where you just gotta, what do you call it? Duct tape. Just get some beads out there, tape to the side, keep that thing up.
It's definitely leaning. It is a problem. I'll have to address at some point. But I'll get there at some point. But again, for those that wonder why it's a struggling question, do you have a garage?
I know. It's like, is that a personal question that I just asked?
It's like I don't want to let. It is probably one of my biggest headaches that just kind of hangs out of me. Just like look back there, and that's going to cost me a bunch of money someday. But I've come to terms with it. It's fine. Let's start off today with a little bit of talk about Troy Dannon and his appearance on Sports Nightly the other night. I think the biggest thing that people are kind of interested in is that it had already been announced, but he spoke on it. The spring game set for March 28th could cross over with, in fact, will cross over with the Elite Eight, could cross over with Nebraska basketball in the Elite Eight. Of course, Nebraska number 7 in the nation right now. Would you say predicted to get there? I wouldn't go that far, but still predicted to at least be in the mix to make it to the Elite Eight. He did mention expected 11 a.m. kickoff time to do that, because those basketball games would be more so in the evening. There's also some other Husker events going on that day, but obviously football, basketball being the revenue generating sports, kind of the ones that people are getting excited for. And it's a once in a lifetime, once in a program history type of season for Nebraska basketball. So it was something that I think a lot of people were kind of interested in. 11 a.m. kickoff, not all that odd. You know, that's kind of usually what the spring game goes, maybe 11 a.m., 2:30. If you remember spring games all the way back before last year. Yeah.
Husker games.
Last year. The Husker games last year was a little bit different, trying to go back to the same format. And I guess for me, I just kind of, you know what? I could agree. I think that could be a great Husker Day if Nebraska makes the Elite Eight. Now, obviously, you're going to have a little bit different, some of the crowd out of town going to that game. It would be weird. I mean, Husker football, I know right now, because football still going on in the NFL, you know, not too far removed from the season, we can still kind of don't have that feeling that we'll have by the time spring hits, where it's like, can we just get to football season? You get that little glimpse of it. So it would be interesting to kind of have your focus in two different places there. But at the same time, I think you can, like they're doing, say, you know what, go ahead and embrace it. He's hoping they make the Elite Eight. That could be an all-time type of day for Nebraska fans in general.
Yeah, not a problem we're familiar with. We can say that much. And, you know, the first thing is, while is Husker basketball, you know, a favorite? They're 19-0. I mean, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't be a favorite. I don't like to project and say they will be there. But again, you're looking at a basketball team that's constantly winning. They're doing it on the road. They're doing it versus ranked opponents. They're undefeated. What is it, 5 or 6 quad one wins? So, you know, like I said, I don't like projecting, but you feel pretty good about these teams' chances of at least making some sort of a push in March Madness. And then for the spring game, it's just huge. It's back. I mean, where were you at with the Husker games? Like, I love the idea of it, but I'll be honest, I thought it fell flat kind of on its face.
It did feel like that. And I think it's because they didn't know what they wanted to do, right? I mean, it was the first, like, no spring game, and then, hey, we're going to put together this Husker game thing. And then at the last minute, where there's going to be elements of an actual game there, but the players, you know, won't be in the game.
But then we'll do some flag football. Maybe that'll make up for it.
The flag football was out there. They had that giant, like, garage sale.
Which that was nice. You can do that every year. I think the garage sale was a good idea.
I do too. And I think people absolutely love that. But I think there might have been a bigger crowd there than at the games.
Yeah.
I went to the Husker games, and it felt, I don't, compared to the passion that Nebraska football fans usually have, being in an 85% empty stadium for it was odd. It felt like I was like a nerd, like a Husker football nerd or something. And I was like, where are all the people that are usually going crazy over this program? I think the actual, like, part of it, doing, you know, with the weightlifting portion, and, you know, there was donations given out to teammates and former players coming back, competing with current players, even in wing eating contests. People remember Dylan Raiola, you know, with the long pass down into the basketball rim and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think that was the highlight.
I think all that stuff is fantastic. And I would put that back into the spring game to a degree. There was years ago, Bo Pelini did kind of, you know, between quarters and different stuff, they'd have Kenny Bell kicking field goals and offensive linemen, you know, catching punts, all that sort of stuff. By the way, I think Sean Callahan still hears about the one that he dropped, even though I think he caught the next one, but nobody tells him about that. But yeah, no, I think all that stuff is and that's why I have mixed feelings about Husker games. I think most people will not have any memory of it here in a few years.
Yeah.
But for me, they did a lot of what I thought would help make it more entertaining moving forward, because a traditional spring game, and I'm just like anybody else, a lot of people walk out in the middle of the third quarter because you've seen what you went there to see, right? And, and they're not going to go play through it. So I'm interested to see what if they will include some of those, some of the better parts from the Husker game. I think why it flopped is just because there wasn't anybody there.
Yeah, and, you know, let's be honest, people, they want to see football,
right?
You know, and that's to your point why when they had the actual spring game, it's still third quarter. You see a lot of people start hitting the doors, and I think the argument was recruiting. They didn't want to put their guys' tape out there because of the whole portal situation, which I can somewhat understand. But, you know, the spring game, I'm so happy that they're bringing that back, and what I think is just going to be like their traditional spring game. Now, what they could do is still keep some of those Husker game elements. You know, some of the things that's what they did well was, if people remember, there was also the volleyball match. They also had a soccer match. Like, they highlighted some of the other fall sports that were going to be starting up and offering, and they kind of made it a full day's event. Like, you can still keep all that part together. I don't get any issues with that. And then you just still go with the traditional spring game, because it was one of those things that Nebraska did so well. It kind of felt like one of the selling points was, man, look, this is a spring game, and look at how Nebraska fans fill this place up with the Husker games, I can't remember what the attendance was, but to your point, it was about 75% empty. You didn't get that same type of feeling. It wasn't one of those where you could turn it on TV and see the Nebraska spring game and think like, wow, that place really is different. People want to go out there and watch real football. And without it, you're just, I think forever going to struggle to get those real numbers in there. So I'm incredibly happy they're bringing it back. Don't blame them for, trying something a little bit different, but there's no reason why you can't still blend in some of those Husker game elements where in my mind, the winging eating contest I can do without. If you want to still do the charity events and have Will Compton benching on the sideline, go nuts, go for it. But you have to have some real football in there, but then you can still go along and highlight the other fall sports.
Yeah, we'll see what they ultimately do. Again, it is evolving, and I think what the university has done a good job of, and we've seen this with Volleyball Day or different concerts that they have, is realize that these are big opportunities to put Nebraska, in the forefront in whatever that might be, whether it's volleyball, like we're saying, or in football, it always was a good highlight and a reminder because you'd see Nebraska's spring game attendance, and whether it was number 1, top 5, whatever it would be. There's also that asterisk next to it, like Nebraska's fans are paying to get in. Like everywhere
yeah, that's
else,
a good point.
Everywhere else it's free. So or more often than not. So, all these other schools, you look at their attendance and go, that's crazy. They're just as crazy as we are. It's like, well, Nebraska made a little bit more money out of it. And so, I certainly expect that to happen again. If Nebraska basketball is in the Elite Eight, I think you can obviously have some personnel at the spring game highlighting that as well. Obviously, it would expect it to be on BTN and, maybe be able to kind of say, hey, we got a big game here tonight on the basketball side. So I think, certain personnel would be there, certain wouldn't. Where would you like Troy Danon to be if there's an Elite Eight game and a spring game football?
Please be at the Elite Eight. I think one's a little bit more. We've done the spring game many times, and it's great. You want to set that thing up, but I mean, this is for Husker basketball. This is historic. We've talked about it before. It's the first time you sweep the non-conference schedule. I think you have to go back to like 1928. You're off to the best start in school of history. You're sitting here undefeated. You're still, multiple weeks in a row. You're sitting in the top 10. Some people got you all the way as a 1 seed to a 4 seed starting in the tournament. So if Nebraska makes it to the Elite Eight, I can't imagine. Like, do you really think Danon would be down here for football? I understand it's such a moneymaker here at the university, but I mean, that's a milestone in itself that I'd imagine you'd want to be there for.
And a chance to get to the Final Four, obviously. Yeah.
And be down there in Indy, I believe, is where the Final Four is this year.
And of course, the other thing is there is always the possibility Nebraska plays in the Friday-Saturday games and wouldn't be there on the Friday-Sunday games instead of the Thursday-Saturday games for that particular weekend. So that could be a thing as well. Chris Raff says on the text line, Husker spring game, Nebraska basketball Elite 8 viewing party. Yeah, maybe everybody could just stick around and watch the game from Memorial Stadium, depending on what time it starts.
Or maybe we set something up here at the ticket. No one else. I mean, if we got both of those things going on, there'll be a lot of opportunity and a lot of money for Lincoln in it.
See, Darren, even from Raising Kids, saying the same thing, doing an Elite 8 watch party after the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think there definitely could be a route for that. That would be fun. Of course, we again getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. Hopefully, Nebraska basketball is in that conversation around that time. But it is interesting because initially when the spring game date was kind of set, that's what people were worried about. Okay, now we at least know they're not just empty-headed up there. They understand that could be a potential, and they're planning for it.
Yeah, and you got to plan for it. Although I don't know. We don't really know what Lincoln looks like when basketball is in that position yet. And I know people talk about the 90s and football and what it looked like when Nebraska football was winning. I don't know what Lincoln is going to look like if Nebraska basketball makes it that far. I'd imagine it's going to be chaos. There's going to be a lot of people. The bars are going to be full. But yeah, it's a good thing to have a plan for because we know Lincoln fans and Husker fans, how they react. They love their winners. And if we get a team in basketball that's going on that kind of run, it's going to take not only all the eyes of the Husker nation, but it's also kind of become somewhat of the sweetheart and national conversation is Nebraska basketball. So, I mean, it's going to be absolute chaos, I'd imagine. And like, shout out to the Raising Cane's, man, like, and everyone's business down there. Everyone will be doing all right if Husker basketball makes that run.
That's right. Local businesses are definitely cheering for Nebraska basketball. But to your point, I mean, that's what's part of fun of this season. We've kind of gotten in this spot where it's obviously we could see it for the last couple of games. Michigan, you could get to a top 5 matchup in Nebraska basketball. Might not be top 5 when we get in there. If they're undefeated, wouldn't be their fault if it's not. But in that category, and so you could see it at the beginning of the month. People were kind of pointing down to that as this kind of big opportunity down the line, and it is. And I can't wait for it there on Tuesday. Of course, I have to take care of business here tomorrow against Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just that's kind of that is kind of been highlighted. That's what every Nebraska fan's kind of looking forward to. But you still got Purdue and Illinois and 2 matches with Iowa. And then what I'm excited about, and I was trying to get to, is there's just so many opportunities for Nebraska basketball, whether it be chasing the Big Ten championship outright in the regular season down the stretch, the Big Ten tournament, obviously, then the NCAA tournament, and each one of those steps along the way, if you can win the first game, that's enough for me. That's all I ever ask. I want to see Nebraska basketball before I get buried in the ground, win a game. But then, from there, your mind kind of opens up to bigger possibilities. And obviously, if you are in a position of the Elite 8, even Sweet 16, then it's no longer a pipe dream to win a national championship. You're right there competing for it. So it is going to be very fun to see how the city of Lincoln, how Nebraska fans, just how all of this can evolve if Nebraska basketball can keep it rolling. Obviously, they don't have to go undefeated. That's an added thing right now if that keeps going on. But it has just been such a special year for Nebraska basketball, and it's far from over.
Yeah, and it's funny too. Like for me, I hear this a lot, and I totally get the mindset. But a lot of people, keep saying it's like, well, they're not going to go undefeated, and it's I get it. Like probably not, but I'm not sitting here waiting for the next loss anytime soon. Is it likely that they maybe take one? Yeah. I mean, they still got a tough opponent. You mentioned you still got Purdue, Michigan. You got another one versus Illinois. You got plenty of ranked tough games ahead here on the schedule. But I'm not going to be sitting here waiting for the loss, especially when you look at some of these games. We've had years prior where, we had number 1 Purdue coming to town, and it was a historic win where Nebraska was able to pull that off. But we haven't really had these matchups where it's like, man, Nebraska's going to, really have to dig deep to find a way to win this one. Like even that Michigan game, although it's a road game, so it's going to be tough. When you watch this Husker basketball team, they look like they belong. It's not like we're watching a team that you're looking at that 19-0 record and being like, man, this is an incredible run. They've had some really close calls, but they managed to pull off a miracle. The opposite of my Chicago Bears, where it's kind of hard to poke at them and call them fraudulent because a lot of these games are winning. They're doing it in somewhat of a dominant fashion. So you get that, look at them where they seem like a legitimate contender. There's no reason to doubt them. And it's your point. I don't know what Lincoln's going to look like if this team goes on a run, other than the businesses are going to be full. But, this Husker Hoops team, like I said, are they going to maybe lose eventually? Sure. We'll talk about it when we get there. But I have to say it over and over, like just enjoy this ride that these guys are on. And if things go well, we'll definitely be looking past that first round when we hit March.
Absolutely. It would be an exciting time regardless. And that's what, like to your point, is just enjoying the ride. As a Nebraska basketball fan, I'm 35, so maybe, started watching 30 years ago. This is nothing been close to this level of high. Like there's some exciting times certain to highlight and points, but to consistently and continually push the envelope of what this year could be to where we are now. It's just been the most incredible ride. So it's been a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that. Talk more about Troy Dannon's radio appearance as well. Coming up next year on 93.7. The ticket is Bock of the Blackshirt. Harrison Arns in for Terrell Farley. I'm Jake Bock, and we'll be back after this.
There are so many realtors in Lincoln and Omaha, but don't get overwhelmed by all the no-names, plus all the different companies. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group at Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Real Estate is your go-to option, whether buying or selling residential, luxury, leasing, investment properties, or commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Nutrition Authority invites you to check out the top-selling Epic Effects. Epic Effects is designed to help blast body fat, curb cravings, and provide smooth energy so you can cruise through the day. Home of free samples and better than internet pricing, Epic Effects can only be found in Nutrition Authority. For store info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Clear your calendar. It's a volleyball weekend in Omaha. Love Nebraska returns to Baxter Arena for back-to-back home matches on January 30th and February 1st, facing Love Madison and Love Austin. 2 matches, 2 chances to see your hometown team compete as the season heats up. Featuring Lexi Rodriguez and Jordan Larson taking on the likes of Lauren Carlini and Maddie Skinner, and special moments throughout the weekend. This is your opportunity to catch all the action live. Make it one night or both nights. Get your tickets now at lobbneb.com/tickets.
Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket immediately after every Nebraska men's basketball game for 1 hour of post-game recap. The Nebraska Basketball Postgame Show is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Planet Fitness has everything you need to get stronger just around the corner, so you can give everything you've got. Whether you want to crush a few reps before class with our expanded strength equipment or sweat it out on your way home from work. With over 2,800 locations, there's a Planet Fitness close to you, and most are open 24 hours. Join the club today and save $28 or more when you join for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 30th. Are you coming? Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
Hi, Charlie Stone here, and joining me is Andy Goodyear with Honda of Lincoln. Before I bring Andy on, we want to wish you joy, success, and good health in 2026. Andy, are you there?
Yes, I am, Charlie. And by the way, that was well said.
Andy, I know you want to kick off 2026 with a bang. What's going on at the dealership?
We got a lot going on here, Charlie. We have incredible savings on every new remaining 2025, New Year's savings on every new 2026, special low long-term financing, and special lease rates. The biggest news is we have more than 400 new 2025 and 2026 Hondas to choose from.
How about pre-owned?
We have over 125 pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas right now, with prices starting at under $10,000, and we have special low rates.
Well, maybe it's time you experience the best. The Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, for brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild has a delicious way for you to enjoy beef brisket. It's our open-faced hot beef sandwich. We start with our grilled Texas toast. Add a scoop of creamy mashed potatoes. Load them up with some tender Hog Wild beef brisket. And top it off with our tasty brown gravy. It's absolutely delicious. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8. Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with a bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G165184. 2,500 down with proof credit.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels and Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday. You lost Wednesday. You're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels and Joe. You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
On 93.7 The Ticket. Thanks for joining us here on this frigid day in Lincoln, Nebraska. Hopefully you are inside somewhere warm, or on your way to inside somewhere warm, or in your car, and your car is warm.
If you're not, call for help.
That's right, yeah. If you're not, why are you listening to us? You need to do something about that situation. But in any case, we do appreciate you listening here. Terrell Farley once again out, final day out, so we'll be back on Monday. Harrison Arns in studio with me. We're talking about Troy Dannon, his appearance on Sports Nightly the other day, and some of the things that were coming out of that. Specifically in the first segment, we talked about the Elite Eight in the spring game potentially being on the same day. And rather than fight against it, they're embracing it, which is the good way to go about it. So that could be an all-time day in Nebraska sports. If we get there, let's all dream, and maybe it'll come true. One other thing I thought was kind of interesting from the Dannon discussion, wouldn't go really too deep on the portal class, but was interested in what he had to say about the quarterback, and that's how he framed it. Kept saying the quarterback as far as transfer Anthony Calandria goes. Said he was able to meet the quarterback and his family when they visited Lincoln. Like Matt Rule, he said he has a presence. To be sure, Dannon noted. He is on the College Football Playoff Committee, of course, Troy Dannon is, and he also talked about how, kind of talking with some of the Mountain West people in the committee, that they agreed that Calandria was the biggest spark, the best player offensively in the Mountain West at UNLV. And so, that's all good glaring news. You would hope that Dannon and Rule, see things from the quarterback. Which it's a tough last name. Like, don't get me wrong. When he committed here, it took me a second to kind of get into Calandria. I remember that day where we're going Colandrea and just trying to find a way.
Well, we also just had to come off of the Notre Dame quarterback, so we were learning 2 names in the matter of under 48 hours.
Maybe that's his problem too. He's just like, remember, it's the quarterback. But it is kind of intriguing. Especially with that move, and this is kind of going back, obviously, what Dannon had to say the other day. Again, it's interesting to get a feel, get a presence from a quarterback, but that's something that I think you need, right? Whether it's going to be successful or not, is not necessarily played out there, but you at least need some leadership. You need some bravado. You need to feel like that you bring an aura as a quarterback, certainly to a huddle, but even off the field. So. It is one of those things. It's kind of weird. You don't want to read too much into it because you would hope the head coach and AD would say that, but I kind of want to meet him as well and see what they're talking about.
Yeah, and you saw a little bit of that, Virginia, and then certainly at UNLV with Calandria. He just got a little bit of flair to him.
Yeah.
You see those, plays that are electric. He is pretty good when it comes to scrambling. That's double-edged sword. Is he running because he's taking advantage of the leverage of the defense, or is he scrambling because he doesn't know what he's looking at down the field? So, but from what you've seen, it looks pretty good at UNLV. I mean, I can't remember off the top of my head what his touchdown to interception ratio was, but it was pretty good on the positive end there. And you do get a little bit of that buzz with him, just looking at some of his highlights. And now I've had time to actually go back, look at some of his games. He's not quiet. He seems like more of a vocal leader. And I think that is important for Nebraska. I mean, you look at this Nebraska program right now. I think the biggest question people have is, what is the direction that this team and, reality, what does this offense even want to do? You kind of need a strong-headed leader who's not going to have confidence issues. And like I said, we don't know everything, if it's going to all be gravy once the season rolls out here, but he seems to certainly have that confidence. So, of course, it's a little bit of AD speak, coach speak, that they're not going to bash the guy that they just got out of the portal. But with what they're saying, it doesn't sound off par from what you've seen out of him at his 2 previous stops. Like I said, Virginia wasn't great, but UNLV, you certainly saw some good parts there. And he does. He's kind of got that confidence and swagger about him. Now, you hope it translates, but you do want a program that feels like it's trying to find their way in the direction that they want to go, or at least if they know which direction, sell the fan base that they got the guys in place to move in that direction. So those are great things to hear. You hope to hear those great things, of course, at this point in the season. But I don't, hear anything that they said that was off. Like, you can go and you see some of that stuff at his previous stops. He does got that flash to him.
Yeah, it will be exciting. I think he brings a big element to Nebraska's offense, obviously, that they did not have last year, and kind of searching for in a mobile quarterback and some some confidence behind him, and all that sort of stuff. So we'll see. I saw a clip of you the other day, and I wanted to ask you about it because I'm kind of in the same. I hope I'm not leading it, but I'm at least talking in conversations about talking about how it doesn't seem like Nebraska's necessarily winning the offseason. Not that they're doing poorly, not that it's it's all burning downhill or anything. It just feels like Nebraska, as opposed to usual, they usually have a top 25 recruiting class coming in, some big names, some headliners. Nebraska this year obviously focused on the front lines, which is what they needed. But altogether, the class rankings aren't what they usually are. Nebraska's high school class ranking, as we know, only took 10 guys, so that took quite a bit of a hit. But when you look at the transfer portal, that changes every day, so I should probably look again. But last time I checked, they were like 37th in the transfer portal, according to 24/7. I think they were like 90th or 80th, somewhere way back there, as far as the high school. So high school recruiting. So it's just I'm trying to kind of struggling. Obviously you have that along with the fact that you got blown out in your final 3 games. You have to do all these switch it and bringing in different coaches. And again, I think a lot of the coaches that they brought in, specifically Rob Orch, would be one that you would be excited about. Had a top 5 defense last year, but still, even like Calandra, now it's the move up to the Big Ten. So you're excited about the potential that they've had there, but it's not like the hire that's going to be the lead story on ESPN. And so all that together, it doesn't feel like Nebraska's necessarily winning the offseason. Might be winning it in a different way, though. And I think that was kind of what you were saying in the clip.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you go back and see some of those clips. You're like, man, you got to be careful, because I don't want to sound negative on the Husker football program, and I think I made that pretty clear. But we talk about this all the time with Husker football. You look at the recruiting rankings, you look at the portal, and just the offseason buzz, whether it's a splash quarterback that we have really high hopes on or a running back. We have a ton of hope and optimism heading into a lot of these seasons. And it makes sense. You want to be excited for the season, of course. But, when you have a program that maybe isn't getting talked about and they're getting a lot more, I don't even want to say negative, but just question marks where no one's just fully buying in. I don't know if that's always a bad thing. It kind of puts maybe a chip on the shoulder of the players, not a chip on the shoulder like we're against the Husker fan base, but you know what? There's pressure on us to go prove it. And I think that can be a good thing when you have a team and you got a program that, it's kind of a bonding element when they got to really lean on each other, and it's going to be vital on those guys. Like at this point, with most of the people I talked about Husker football, people really don't know until November. At this point, when you ask them, what are your hopes are, and they'll say, we'll find out in November how good this team really is. And take some of that hype, some of that pressure, some of that offseason buzz that's just hyping up this program. These guys are going to go win 9-10 games. This might, be competing with Ohio State. And we get to these really lofty expectations and goals. And then all that pressure kind of starts right at the beginning of the season, and then you go play a team like Houston Christian, who has no business being out there. You dominate them, and then the expectations even go higher. This is a point where it's a little bit more quiet than I've heard, and there's still a lot to go. Obviously, we're still not to the spring game yet, but it does feel different. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. It puts a little bit of pressure. I think it makes a bonding element in that locker room where the guys know that until we start winning, I don't know if they'll get that kind of same lofty expectations or that same conversation around the program until they go out there and prove it. So it does feel different than last year's, and you've been doing this longer than I have. Maybe there's years that are kind of similar to this, but this one's felt a lot different to me this offseason, which is, to Matt Rule's credit, he has gone to back-to-back bowl games and after picking up the disaster of what it was left, kind of after that Scott Frost era. So he's done some good things, but the conversation seems to have certainly shifted regardless.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's something I have to keep reminding too, even myself and reminding everybody, is that they did have their best regular season wins wise since 2016 this past year. So, but again, it's just the way that season ended, and then the moves you have to make afterwards. The giant move off of the Raiola family. I mean, I think that is definitely part of it. That was when we talk about hype and winning the offseason and Kool-Aid. The Raiola family was a big part of that for 4 to 5 years now, kind of looking into bringing Dylan in. Then obviously when he got here, I'm interested to see if this next season, because they were doing this past season and they had the schedule in front of them, maybe to start to argue this is, I remember last year's bowl game, the Pinstripe Bowl, and even Big Ten Media Days, whether it was Rule or Raiola, but they would talk about our goal is the college football playoff. Our goal is to win the national championship. And I wonder if that's going to be the same case this year. Not that I don't even know if I'd be mad or glad or sad or whatever about one or the other, but I am interested to see, because obviously this year, a big part of the discussion in what I suppose is halting some of that offseason hype is the schedule that Nebraska is going to have to face next year, where you've got Oregon and Ohio State and Indiana and Washington and Illinois and Iowa. And I mean, it's just a tough schedule. And so I'm interested to see if they have that same type of optimism. And I think part of it, again, too, with that schedule, the other part of it is, well, you were hoping Dylan was going to break out. Obviously, Emmett Johnson did break out, but maybe it is still, the fact that you're bringing in some Mountain West pieces to fix it, but it feels like maybe that ceiling is a little bit less, but that doesn't mean that the team can't achieve more or close to the same thing. Obviously, maybe even the same record with a much better win or two in there.
Yeah. And, I'll kind of answer that in two parts, but, on a quick side tangent, going a little bit back to the expectations where we have to remind ourselves, it was fascinating to have Nuri back in here. And one of the first things he said was, kind of talk about when he was playing. And, he said the line of like, I'm sure you guys are, the conversations are much better now. And it's like, well, I know you've been gone for a while, but it's been fascinating over the past few months because they, to Nuri's point, he's been out obviously over in the CFL, and he's like, well, wow, Husker football, back-to-back bowl games, that's great. It must be sunshines and rainbows down there again. And he comes down here, and I'm like I said, I was like, I don't know if you've been here for the conversations, but no, surprisingly, it hasn't been as positive. But you do have that kind of that good reflective on like guys that have been here, and when they see that, they look at the program as actually meeting new goals and expectations. And then for Husker football, I think the expectations are also a little bit weird, because if you remember last year with Matt Rule, there was some press conference moments where he would talk to the media and kind of sell them on some things. He would talk about this team's ready to go compete, with some of the better teams in the Big Ten. So you kind of also had the coaches telling you that this team's really good. I think, it's going to fall along the lines of year 3. And this is not verbatim, kind of paraphrasing here, but they certainly sold the team that it was going to make some leaps. So to your point, it'll be interesting. How do they handle this season when we get closer to football? Are they a little bit more careful about their words? Are they looking at the schedule the same way? And then you just look at the coaches in the Big Ten and how good a lot of these coaches are. And I know Michigan State's got Fitzgerald now, who I think is another phenomenal head coach. So I'm going to be really curious to see how the coaches and how they talk about it when we get closer to it, because that was one thing that I think maybe kind of got people upset was they were kind of talking about it at one point. I know people use the Jeff Sims quote all the time that Matt Rule said, he's an NFL talent.
Yeah.
Things like that. When you say certain elements and then they fall flat on their face, when we get later in the season, I think that's also part of kind of how we ended up in some of these conversations. I like Matt Rule's confidence in the guys. You know, I think as a head coach, you need to have that confidence. I don't know if you always need to tell the media.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I do love that Matt Rule is bringing Nebraska football to the forefront of the Pat McAfee show and the podcast and stuff that he's able to do. But sometimes I do feel like he shares a little bit too much. But as he says, he's not going to lie to you. He's got nothing to lose at this point.
And if he starts winning, no one cares. You know,
right?
You can talk as much as you want. We'll be happy.
Well, that is always part of it. But it does feel like sometimes we know a little bit more about the coaching staff than I think, could be kept internal. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll take a quick break here on Bock of the Blackshirt. We'll talk more on this and other sports topics coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue.
Hog Wild has a delicious way for you to enjoy beef brisket. It's our open-faced hot beef sandwich. We start with our grilled Texas toast. Add a scoop of creamy mashed potatoes. Load them up with some tender Hog Wild beef brisket. And top it off with our tasty brown gravy. It's absolutely delicious. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Hi, Charlie Stone here, and joining me is Andy Goodyear with Honda of Lincoln. Before I bring Andy on, we want to wish you joy, success, and good health in 2026. Andy, are you there?
Yes, I am, Charlie. And by the way, that was well said.
Andy, I know you want to kick off 2026 with a bang. What's going on at the dealership?
We got a lot going on here, Charlie. We have incredible savings on every new remaining 2025, New Year savings on every new 2026, special low long-term financing, and special lease rates. The biggest news is we have more than 400 new 2025 and 2026 Hondas to choose from.
How about pre-owned?
We have over 125 pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas right now with prices starting at under $10,000, and we have special low rates.
Well, maybe it's time you experience the best. The Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at sartorheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Planet Fitness has everything you need to get stronger just around the corner, so you can give everything you've got. Whether you want to crush a few reps before class with our expanded strength equipment or sweat it out on your way home from work. With over 2,800 locations, there's a Planet Fitness close to you, and most are open 24 hours. Join the club today and save $28 or more when you join for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 30th. Are you coming? Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G165184, 2,500 down with proof credit.
Nutrition Authority invites you to check out the top-selling Epic Effects. Epic Effects is designed to help blast body fat, curb cravings, and provide smooth energy so you can cruise through the day. Home of free samples and better than internet pricing, Epic Effects can only be found in Nutrition Authority. For store info, visit mynutritionauthority.com.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf.
The 2026 Love Nebraska season is underway, and professional volleyball is back in a big way. From powerful serves to game-changing rallies, every match brings elite competition to the court. See some of the game's top athletes, including Lexi Rodriguez and Jordan Larson, compete right here in Nebraska. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the sport, there's a match for you this season. Explore the full schedule and plan your night out at lovbneb.com/schedule.
Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket immediately after every Nebraska men's basketball game for 1 hour of post-game recap. The Nebraska Basketball Postgame Show is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
We're back here on Box the Blackshirt on 93.7 The Ticket. Thanks for joining us today. We so far kind of talked about Troy Dannon's radio appearance and some of the things that he said specifically regarding the spring game and the Elite Eight dropping on the same day. We also talked in this last segment about the feeling that Dannon and Matt Rule get around the quarterback, the new quarterback transfer, Anthony Calandria, and what that kind of means for Nebraska football altogether. Jumped a little bit into maybe not winning the offseason, but maybe that will lead to better results here come this season. We do have a few thoughts there. Thomas and Lincoln says, with what I've seen and what has changed, I think Nebraska will be extremely lucky if they go 500. Again, I see that from some text, and that's why it is so interesting. And I continue to ask people because I think it is fair enough at this point in time. And after 3 years in the Matt Rule era, do you believe in Matt Rule or do you hope in the Matt Rule era? And again, you can answer it whatever way you want to and what that means. But I do see a lot of people starting to question it. And again, you lose 3 games like that in blowout fashion. I go back to that Indiana game that they lost 2 years ago. When that happened, it was like, okay, second year, it's understandable, but you can't have this happen too often. And now a few more blowouts at the end of last year. And then it's just going to be so interesting to field, to kind of go through this next season, because there are going to be opportunities. Like we said, all you can ask for is opportunities. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to get major wins. And if you can get 1 or 2 of them, right, much less 3 or 4 of them, obviously you can get rolling. But then on the opposite end of that, what do the losses look like? Because that's been a big part of the discussion too. If they're in blowout fashion or a majority of them are, obviously, then you start to get a little bit more heat under you.
Yeah, and that's where, and I think this is where the season went south for some people, because, how did the losses look? Well, you get the Michigan game. It wasn't like super ugly or anything, but they're without their head coach. It's at home for Nebraska. It's a down year-ish for Michigan. You like your chances in that one. You get a Penn State without a Drew Aller, so maybe you feel good about that one. Iowa, it was one of their better years, but you want to compete with Iowa. And, Utah, great team, but you get blown up by those guys. those 3 last games were brutal. And then you had some games along the way where the cards were in your favor. USC, night game, blackout, another opportunity to go get a big win. You lose that one, but okay, you lose your starting quarterback. But with all those games, the one that always sticks out and the one that would just sway the conversation, and it just baffles me that we have such a hard time regardless of the quarterback, the coaching staff, the AD, Iowa. I mean, so much of the conversation, if you can just go we almost gave Mickey Joseph the job, and obviously some things happened, but for that win over Iowa, you have to go beat that team. Like, that is a game. It's kind of similar to like what you have in Michigan and Ohio State. Like, that game means a lot. Does it count more than others? No. There's a trophy attached to it. Yeah, but it's a rivalry that means a lot. And that is always that last regular season game to where, not only is it Iowa, but it is the last game. Like, it gives you some momentum heading into that bowl game scenario. And in this case, we end up Utah. I don't know how much the results would change, but like, that is such a huge game that we have to find a way to at least start beating Iowa more consistently. And I don't think that's an incredibly lofty goal. You go look at the Hawkeyes. It's a good program, but that is the game to where, like, if you really want to get people buying in and I think believing, that game has to really start falling in our favor. Otherwise, you have to come out with a really strong record to counteract that Iowa loss. And to your point, you get the Iowa loss along with the one before and the one after that were all blowouts. Like, that's going to sour the mood of a lot of fans. Like, no one likes losing to Iowa. It happens all the time. And if you can you go get that win, maybe it shouldn't, but it does. It drastically changes the conversation. Like I said, we were probably going to give Mickey Joseph the job for it, just simply for that win. And I think that was Bill Bush and Mickey Joseph were the last time we beat the Hawkeyes. So, that those games truly matter. And that's why people always say, like, we'll see when we get to November what this team looks like, because those are the games that people are talking about. And Husker football hasn't been able to come out with those wins. And then we get to this point of the offseason where people's moods are a little bit down. I'm not here to say Matt Rule is the right guy or the wrong guy, but I think he'd be honest to himself and say, like, that should be the expectation.
Well, and it is interesting, too. And again, it goes, the Iowa problem is much bigger than Matt Rule. Scott Frost had that problem. Mike Riley had that problem. It is crazy that the Iowa, and it still baffles my mind. They just even say it out loud. 10 of 11. Iowa has beaten Nebraska, and therefore even 10 of 12, you could say, and give Nebraska the benefit of the doubt. But when you do that, those 2 games, they fired the coach. Nebraska fired the coach right after beating Iowa. I don't think there's a bigger fan of Nebraska, football program, maybe than Kirk Ferentz, because it's definitely helped his job security in his popularity down there in Iowa City for the longest time. And then, of course, the other problem that's starting to pop up, and it won't be at least here next year because you don't play him year to year, but is PJ Fleck has quite a winning streak going against Nebraska. And that Minnesota game, that's one I don't think, that's not part of the blowouts at the end that kind of led to, but it was one that, right after the extension and kind of started the, I would say, negative kind of downward, I want to go as far as say a spiral, but kind of downward trajectory of Nebraska's football season last year.
Yeah, I mean, how do you defend that one though?
Right.
And that's where I get the fan base totally, because I was in that same boat as like that Minnesota game. To your point, you get the extension. You can't go out there and look like that. And then we talked about the recruiting where you're ranked and all this. Well, if that's true, you got to go beat teams like Minnesota. At the very least, not get blown out.
Absolutely. Speaking of Iowa, by the way, again, Nebraska-Iowa wrestling. Huge matchup tonight on 8 p.m. on BTN. Nebraska's got an Iowa problem themselves in wrestling as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that and jump into the weekend for Nebraska basketball as well. Coming next year on Bock the Blackshirt on 93.7 The Ticket.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf. For remote starters, audio upgrades, and more, there's only one place to go. Auto Sounds of Lincoln at 48th and O.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement. The 2026 Love Nebraska season is underway, and professional volleyball is back in a big way. From powerful serves to game-changing rallies, every match brings elite competition to the court. See some of the game's top athletes, including Lexi Rodriguez and Jordan Larson, compete right here in Nebraska. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the sport, there's a match for you this season. Explore the full schedule and plan your night out at lovbneb.com/schedule.
Planet Fitness has everything you need to get stronger just around the corner, so you can give everything you've got. Whether you want to crush a few reps before class with our expanded strength equipment or sweat it out on your way home from work. With over 2,800 locations, there's a Planet Fitness close to you, and most are open 24 hours. Join the club today and save $28 or more when you join for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 30th. Are you coming? Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
93.7 The Ticket. Fox KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Your Lincoln forecast for today: cloudy skies expected, be breezy and cold. The afternoon high of just 2 above. Tonight, snow likely and cold, low around 1 below. And tomorrow, continued chance of snow, otherwise cloudy and cold. An afternoon high around 8. I'm meteorologist Kyle Klecker for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, Charlie Stone here, and joining me is Andy Goodyear with Honda of Lincoln. Before I bring Andy on, we want to wish you joy, success, and good health in 2026. Andy, are you there?
Yes, I am, Charlie. And by the way, that was well said.
Andy, I know you want to kick off 2026 with a bang. What's going on at the dealership?
We got a lot going on here, Charlie. We have incredible savings on every new remaining 2025, New Year savings on every new 2026, special low long-term financing, and special lease rates. The biggest news is we have more than 400 new 2025 and 2026 Hondas to choose from.
How about pre-owned?
We have over 125 pre-owned and certified pre-owned Hondas right now, with prices starting at under $10,000, and we have special low rates.
Well, maybe it's time you experience the best. The Honda of Lincoln way of doing business. 27th and Yankee Hill Road, or online at hondaoflincoln.com.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
Concrete Industries has immediate job openings for precast production laborers and maintenance technicians. Concrete Industries offers great pay, health benefits, 401k, a wellness program, holidays, and paid time off. Apply today to earn a starting pay of $21.50 per hour plus a $1,500 hiring bonus. Concrete Industries is hiring all experience levels and offers on-the-job training. Start your career today as a precast production laborer or maintenance technician. Visit concreteindustries.com.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue.
Hog Wild has a delicious way for you to enjoy beef brisket. It's our open-faced hot beef sandwich. We start with our grilled Texas toast. Add a scoop of creamy mashed potatoes. Load them up with some tender Hog Wild beef brisket. And top it off with our tasty brown gravy. It's absolutely delicious. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt.
Terrell Farley, defending Terrell Farley, who last week in his first start was a holy terror, number 43.
And Jake Bockoven. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Powered by Bauer.
We are on to hour number 2 of Bock and the Blackshirt here on a Good Sense Friday. Shout out to Good Sense for providing the staff with delicious food today. I, as usual, get my pepper bread and am very happy for having had that. Harrison, what's your go-to at Good Sense here?
Man, usually at Good Sense, I'll change it up. I usually go with the Italian subs is my go-to. Usually not here on Friday, so I'm gonna get the personalized custom sub like you guys.
You didn't do one,
but I am a Nick Wyman sandwich. I don't know what he orders, but I can tell you one thing: if it's from Good Sense, it's probably fantastic. I will say I came from Hartington, Nebraska. I was like, it was Subway and Pizza Hut. When I got out to Lincoln, Good Sense, what a savior! It is by far one of my favorite sub places, and I'm not just saying that. I eat Good Sense all the time when I first got down here, but they have a good selection. Usually give me one of those Italian subs, and I'm all game for it.
Are you pretty tired of Subway then?
Yes.
You've had plenty of Subway over here.
It was, then Pizza Hut ended up closing, so it was only Subway. No. Yeah. So shout out to the Subway in Hartington. They did great business. Don't get me wrong, but when it's the only option, you don't have much for change-ups.
Did the Pizza Hut have it so that you could go inside and have sit down and all that?
Yeah, they had the buffet.
See, I love Pizza Hut buffets. Yeah,
that was when Pizza Hut was really, really in its prime, where that place was always packed. It was the place after church on Sundays. But yeah, I don't know why they ended up closing though.
Yeah, they seem to. A lot of buffets kind of went to the wayside once COVID came around, unfortunately. But bring them back.
Another thing COVID ruined.
yeah, put it on the list. Unfortunately. So kind of interesting. Let's just jump into some Nebraska basketball. Of course, they've got a big weekend ahead of them. We also mentioned, and I do want to shout out and get to it real quick, is that Nebraska wrestling has a very big weekend ahead of them. And I say weekend because tonight is a huge match against Iowa, but also Sunday against Ohio State. These are two of the top, obviously, teams in the Big Ten, but also top teams in the country. Nebraska among them as well. Nebraska, though, has had a bit of a problem getting over the Iowa hump. Nebraska is taking its first dual win versus Iowa since 2006. That's 20 years ago. It's a long time. Tonight will be that opportunity. 8 p.m. start on BTN. Harrison, I know you get to do these wrestling post-game shows from time to time. What do you think about tonight's matchup with the Hawkeyes for Nebraska?
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned it right there. The history is, tough when you look at a rival that is Iowa. They travel well. I'd imagine they'll fill the place pretty good. So if you guys are out there, I know it's cold, but, just start that car up early. Head down there if you can. Check it out. It's not super expensive. It's not chaotic getting in and out of there. So if you want to bring your family, it's a great thing to do. And you're going to see some really good competition. And when you look at the matchups, I mean, I know we talked about the history. There is a legit opportunity for Nebraska to be able to pull this one away. They have been close. And years prior, it's not like Iowa's gone in there and, Nebraska doesn't stand a chance. There's a good opportunity for Nebraska to pull this out. And you look at some of the guys like Antrell Taylor's on an absolute heater right now. He's got back-to-back pinfalls in his last 2 matches. And, early in the year, I know with the national duels, also where Iowa was in, they were on the opposite side of the bracket. That was a tough little stretch there for Huskers. They started off good against Lehigh. The further down the road, they started getting really banged up. And then, of course, they had Oklahoma State and Ohio State back-to-back in a matter of like 30 minutes once the first one ended. So, after that in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I think maybe the expectations changed a little bit. But in reality, a lot of those guys were just really banged up and hurt. And as they've gotten healthier, you're starting to see that. And I think their last match was a really good example of that versus Minnesota, that the guys are kind of clicking now. They're fully healthy. And like I said, when you go look at the matchups for Iowa, you see some of these matchups going in the Huskers' favor. Maybe not a dominant blowout, but even for guys who, like Kohler at 125, if they end up going with him, it's a good opportunity just to go get some experience out there. These are going to be a lot of top 10 matchups, top 15 maybe at the most for Iowa or Nebraska, and then a couple of unranked guys. But for those unranked guys, really great opportunity. You can put yourself in a position to be in some serious postseason play, even if you want to win. But even if you don't win, you can get some good matches in here. It's where these guys can really set themselves up for a good picture later in the season. And then you got Ohio State a couple days later. And Ohio State is really good this year, maybe one of the bigger surprises this year in wrestling. So this weekend as a whole, it starts with Iowa. You got that rivalry there. Like I said, you maybe like Nebraska's odds to be able to pull this one out. Ohio State, I think it's a whole conversation in itself. Very talented team. But this weekend is a loaded slate. And then I think they get Penn State after on the road. So for Husker wrestling, it's a kind of a litmus test, if you will, to see where these guys are at and can they put themselves in some positions, to really have some good potential to make runs postseason.
And of course, had a magical run at Nationals last year, finished off number 2. And so the expectation this year, of course, you add AJ Ferrari, a lot of hope to build off of that. But it's the Big Ten. It is a grind. And so it is tough to kind of, unless you are Penn State, who's firmly, planted their flag at the top. It is tough to kind of jostle amongst at the top there for anybody else. So we'll see if Nebraska can kind of get it going. Hopefully, can get things rolling here midway through the season and pick up some big wins this week in wrestling. Also wanted to mention Nebraska women's basketball. I know they've got they're attempting to kind of pack the house tomorrow against Illinois. That will be at 1 p.m. And they desperately need a win there. They're coming off 3 straight losses. If you followed them along so far this season, they're 14-5. Their first 4 losses coming against top 25 competition. They were beating everybody outside of the top 25. That is until Wednesday when they dropped a game to Wisconsin on the road. Again, no necessarily shame in doing that, but Nebraska clinging to the 24th ranking. That might be tough to hold up, but they themselves are going to go through a stretch here pretty soon once we get into February of another run of top 25 teams in the Big Ten that they're going to face. So hopefully the women's basketball team can get it going against Illinois there tomorrow. Let's also jump into Nebraska men's basketball. We talked a little bit about it to open the show, but they've got their big game here against Minnesota. Now, a lot of people would say the big game is against Michigan on Tuesday, but it will be bigger if Nebraska is undefeated there. And of course, this week comes with the victory for Nebraska, of course, in their last game against Washington, but that came at a bit of a cost with Braden Frager now day-to-day with an ankle injury. We've kind of talked about it at the station. I think everybody agrees, and Harrison, I want to get your take on it too. I don't know if you can match or replace Braden Frager and everything that he does for you specifically, but obviously there's going to be more minutes to go around, and so you need the strengths of the other players to step up, and maybe for some of those roles to step up a little bit more to replace Braden Frager, but it's going to be difficult. I mean, even in the Washington game, he's really good at once he's kind of got some speed going downhill. And I think against Washington, I think combined they scored for like 3 fast break points, but I think Nebraska had a few of them. So again, might just be a little bit of a different route. Who do you think needs to step up the most for Nebraska in Braden Frager's absence?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, the way that ball moves on Nebraska basketball, it's, to your point, you can't replace everything that Braden Frager does. He's a 3-level score. Well, and Fred Hoiberg's, I think, a 2-level score. I don't know how many mid-range jumpers they really take in that offense. But, that's a tough guy to replace and what he was able to do. But on the bright side, that's kind of been the mantra of Husker basketball all year is next man up. Whether it's been Sanford, Hoiberg, Jamarcus Lawrence has had big games. Even Garcia in the last game, he had a couple of big shots that he came in there. So, I don't know if it's going to have to be one guy to really take over or if it's just going to be that collective team effort again. I know Sam Hoiberg, he had some really good numbers in the last one. Can't remember what his total was, but at one point I was looking up, he had 14 points and really good efficiency. So I think it's going to be, a little bit more of just that collective effort again. I don't know if there's a sole guy who's going to replace what Braden Frager does because, if there was a sole guy that that could replace Braden Frager, he'd be playing a lot more minutes if it was just one guy that could do everything that he could. So, it's going to be by a team effort to kind of fill that void. And whether it's Sanford, Rink Mast, he hasn't had to have a whole games where we lean on him heavily. Not that we've needed it or that he can't do it, but maybe this is a game where Rink Mast goes a little bit to what he was earlier in the year, where he's playing 30-plus minutes and he's taking a few bit more shots. And especially if that 3 ball's going in, you really like your chance of him taking over some of that load. But, I'm not really worried about one guy taking over. I think that's the beautiful thing about Nebraska basketball is you go look at that. I know it gets annoying. I say it all the time, but their assist to turnover ratio is unreal. That team shares the ball at an incredibly well level. And that's why night in, night out, you might get a different leading scorer. Sometimes it's going to be a sole guy taking over. Other times it's going to be that team effort. So give me everyone on the list, I guess, to go ahead and replace the production that has Braden Frager been so far.
And as Nebraska looks at it, obviously going into the barn against the Golden Gophers in the Twin Cities, you got to look at where Minnesota is coming in this game, and they are looking to break a streak. 4 straight losses for the Golden Gophers, but they've been competitive. So they've lost to USC 70-69, to Wisconsin 78-75. Illinois beat them 77-67, and then most recently, overtime loss to Ohio State 82-74. It's kind of interesting to watch them. It's their first year under Nico Medved, of course, who was at one time an assistant under former Nebraska basketball coach Tim Miles. But they're a team that's kind of finding their identity too here midway through the season. You'd hope you'd kind of get there, but I say that because they're led by mostly transfers that have come in and helped Minnesota get to where they are at this point in the season. Specifically, Jalen Crocker Johnson is coming on as of late. He averages 14.2 points per game, but had 26 in their most recent game against Ohio State. And then there's Cade Tyson. Cade Tyson, nearly a 40% three-point shooter, 80% from the line. He's an interesting story because his career started at Belmont, did pretty well there, averaged 16 points his last year there. Gave it a shot at North Carolina, didn't get a whole lot of minutes. Only 8 minutes per game, only averaged 2.6 points per game. So he transfers to Minnesota, see if another Power 4 job could kind of give him more opportunities. 20.5 points per game now for Cade Tyson. So he will be kind of the main gopher that Nebraska basketball will kind of have to look out for in this game. So that's kind of a little bit of a brief rundown of Minnesota. But back to the Nebraska side, I did want to ask you too, because DP asked me this before, and I was since able to do a little bit of a rundown of this. So if you were listening to one-on-one earlier, kind of throw back to that as which one of these Huskers would you say at this point would you nominate for first team All Big Ten? Because there's probably a few of them that you could. Nebraska's last first team All Big Ten selection was Bryce Williams just last year, so not too long. But over the years, it's been hard to come by. James Palmer did it in 2018. Terran Petaway, part of that special tournament run in 2014. Alex Mark, if you go back to 2008, and then back into the 90s, you got Vincent Hamilton, Teron Luz, Eric Piatkowskis, and such. But the first team all-conference honors don't come along often for a team that's sitting alone on top of the standings in the Big Ten, undefeated. Nebraska's probably got some pretty good arguments, but it's such a good team and relies on so much team basketball. Who do you think the individual awards maybe should start getting look at that?
Yeah, this one's always tough because you can get the high usage guy at programs that don't have as many wins, but this guy, he's taking a ton of shots and he's averaging 20 plus points per game on some high usage. I think the guy that sticks out right now, there's a couple of them, but the first guy is Sanford, especially over these past few games. I mean, if he keeps dropping 20, 30, 24 points off of really high efficient 3-point shooting, and he's doing a little bit of everything. He's scoring inside. He's not a liability on defense. He doesn't have the biggest frame, but he's got long enough, arms, and he hustles enough at that end of the floor where I don't think he's necessarily a liability there whatsoever. He sticks out there. And then the guy that everyone loves talking about, and rightfully so, because he's kind of having that season, is Sam Hoiberg. I mean, the amount of time that he's handling the ball, operating the offense, and keeping that ball moving around, again, that assist to turnover ratio is like unreal. I think it's like something around like 72 assists and 12 turnovers on the year, which is just unreal. And I might be a little off that mark, but if not too far off. I mean, it's
76 and 14 at this
thank
time,
you.
yeah.
76 and 14,
Woo.
which that's unreal. And that's a guy that's handling the ball a lot for this Husker offense, and he's initiating a lot. He's obviously had that iconic moment where late in the game, it might have been Ohio State. It was earlier in the year where he had that crucial where they swing it out, and then they were able to knock down that big time three. He kicks it out to Jamarcus Lawrence. But, he's been given the ball in high pressure moments, and he's delivered. He's been given the ball, and, just your early in the game, keep the offense rolling. He's done a good job. And, you hear it from coaches. He'll definitely be getting voted on by coaches. And I think as players too, he's a pest. You add the steals into what he does there. And like I said, he's had those moments where he doesn't shoot the ball a ton, but he's doing it at a pretty efficient clip for us. So he could definitely be a guy that you throw in there. Like what he does defensively and then playmaking wise, that might honestly get him into that group. I mean, try to find another guard in the Big Ten who you maybe trust more with your handling of the offense right now. Sam Hoiberg's putting up that kind of season where he looks like if you're a head coach, you would love to have him on your team. And that's why you have future Hall of Fame coaches like Tom Izzo saying he's my favorite player, because you can just see that he's an incredibly smart player. That's how he's able to get so many steals on defense by knowing where to be. And that's why he's able to get so many assists on offense without turning the ball over. He's just kind of playing a couple steps ahead. So I think he'll legitimately get some consideration.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see if he does. I mean, like you said, the coaches, any coach that goes up against Nebraska, very complimentary of him. And obviously he does this a little bit different, so I don't want to make the direct comparison. But, his if you look at points per game or something like that, his stats might not jump out to you. But similar to like what Draymond Green was with the Warriors, it's just every stat is pretty solid. Might not none of them are necessarily leading the Big Ten maybe, but when you put it all together and then you look at, and then you can get into like the assist to turnover ratio, like you're saying, that would be up there for the lead, if not the lead. And then as you mentioned too, it's also the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we do assist to turnover ratio, obviously, because that can kind of tell you how you get the offense going. You don't often do steal the turnover ratio, but that is directly kind of like, the effective on the turnovers, right? And he's got 37 steals to 14 turnovers. I mean, so he has just been incredible. If you look up and down, 8.7 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 4 assists per game, which leads the team. And then again, the 1.9 steals, doing all this on 54% shooting from the floor, 38% beyond the arc, and 73% from the line. And I can't wait to see, because he definitely is playing with a lot of confidence out there to kind of see if he might be one that also steps up with Braden Frager being out. Is just a little bit more asked from him on the offensive end. I say that because he has been doing that. Of course, this year in general, had an 18-point game in non-conference play, but more importantly, over the last 3 games has hit double figures in each one of those. And I thought it was interesting kind of watching the Washington game, and I've kind of been bringing it up this week, is there's a difference between kind of a contested 3-point shot from Sam now than there was 2 years ago, right? He wouldn't really take that. He would, and smartly, he'd look for a better option. Obviously, he has the speed to go by plenty of defenders, so that's always something that he has in his wheelhouse now. But now, like as the clock is maybe coming down on a possession, because like I said, he's going to still try to find the best shot that he can, and a lot of that time is going to burst by somebody. But I mean, he's shooting well enough that he's got the green light if he's got a decent shot at any time in the shot in the possession. So it is fun to watch him evolve. I think Berke, he might be a step short. Rink Nass certainly would be in the first team conversation as well. Berke might be a step short on that, but he is playing his role and doing it better and with more confidence, certainly, than he had last year. But then what we've seen of him, and I can't wait to see his growth continue. And so, but all of that, of course, the most exciting growth was to watch is Braden Frager. We'll see what happens when he kind of gets back on the court. But it just, again, continues to underscore what a team effort this is. And, we talk about what kind of will keep you consistently going. And sometimes shooting, you're going to have off night shooting, but defense, you can carry that on the road, and all that stuff is true. But again, similar type of thing to building a team. If you're relying on 1 or 2 guys, and certainly Nebraska's been there over the years, even last year, to fill up the bucket. And if that guy has an off night, then you're in trouble. That's not what this team is. I mean, this team feeds off of one another, and if somebody is having an off night, you've got somebody there to step up in his place.
Yeah, and that's where you see last year, as great as some of the individual players we had, you would see Huskers go on, a 4-minute scoring drought, a 5-minute scoring drought, and there'd be a few of those sprinkled out throughout the game. Good teams, really simple. They don't let teams go on runs, and they go on runs themselves. And that's why you look at this Husker offense, and you look at them as a serious team, not fraudulent whatsoever, because there's no reason why they can't replicate this offense versus anyone they play. I mean, it's an offense that really moves the ball well. They play with, some of the better team chemistry than anybody out there in the country right now, or that's certainly what it looks like. And I think that's kind of the beauty of this team and why you feel so confident they're going to be able to replicate this, even if Braden Frager's out, is that it's an offense that plays really smart basketball. They share the ball well. So I don't get any, anticipation that this thing's going to come to a grinding halt anytime soon. And Braden Frager, I think him being day-to-day is the best news for Husker fans. A lot of people were distraught when we lost him, but, we also lost Connor Essegian. This team just continues to find ways to win.
Yeah, hopefully they get it done again in the Twin Cities against the Golden Gophers this weekend. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about the college football playoff, and a standstill between the Big Ten and the SEC is going to keep us right where we are. We'll talk about that coming next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue.
Hog Wild has a delicious way for you to enjoy beef brisket. It's our open-faced hot beef sandwich. We start with our grilled Texas toast. Add a scoop of creamy mashed potatoes. Load them up with some tender Hog Wild beef brisket and top it off with our tasty brown gravy. It's absolutely delicious. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue, 3210 Cornhusker Highway in Lincoln.
But don't be late, we close at 8.
Planet Fitness has everything you need to get stronger just around the corner, so you can give everything you've got. Whether you want to crush a few reps before class with our expanded strength equipment or sweat it out on your way home from work. With over 2,800 locations, there's a Planet Fitness close to you, and most are open 24 hours. Join the club today and save $28 or more when you join for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 30th. Are you coming? Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at sartorheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G165184. 2,500 down with proof credit.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old-fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake.
Concrete Industries has immediate job openings for precast production laborers and maintenance technicians. Concrete Industries offers great pay, health benefits, 401k, a wellness program, holidays, and paid time off. Apply today to earn a starting pay of $21.50 per hour plus a $1,500 hiring bonus. Concrete Industries is hiring all experience levels and offers on-the-job training. Start your career today as a precast production laborer or maintenance technician. Visit concreteindustries.com.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
For remote starters, audio upgrades, and more, there's only one place to go. Auto Sounds of Lincoln at 48th and O.
Just got the brakes fixed on my car today. You did? You haven't even left the office. I didn't need to. I got a guy who picks up my car and drops it off when it's done. Who's your guy? Graham Tire. They have pickup and delivery service at all 5 of their Lincoln locations.
Schedule your service online on the Pickup and Delivery tab at GrahamTireLincoln.com. That's GrahamTireLincoln.com. Let us do the running. Some limitations apply. See store for details.
You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into Bock and the Blackshirt here on 93.7 The Ticket. I'm Jake Bachman. He is Harrison Arns filling in for Terrell Farley for this one final day. We'll get the Blackshirt back in studio on Monday. That says if he is done in the championship state. That's where he went. He went to Indiana.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, he might be partying up there if he made it by Bloomington. So, obviously still college football world was prepared for it, right? I mean, we kind of watched it all happen, but it's a little bit unbelievable that the Indiana Hoosiers are our national champions, and we can continue to say that all offseason.
Yeah, it kind of just throws everything you know about football in the water, and that's why some of these coaches are going to get into the hot seats a lot quicker. I mean, that Indiana example is going to haunt some of these coaches, being like, that's such an unreal precedent of, look, you can do this thing and not year one be at a program that has no business whatsoever being a powerhouse into the college football playoffs, and hey, year two we're just going to go ahead and win it, be undefeated, and have the Heisman and dominate everybody with 0 5 stars and a handful of 4 stars. Like,
it just doesn't make sense.
That is such an unreal precedent. So hopefully we can replicate that. I don't think I'll ever see that again in my lifetime. I think he's a generational coach. That, or they're doing something that no one's caught on to yet, which feels like almost has to be the case. But yeah, it's unreal. I'm not used to it. I think it'll take me a while to get used to it.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned it earlier, and we often go back to off air is how great of coaches we are in the college football video game. I've done this before. One with only 3 stars in year 2 at a downtrodden program, but that's the only place I've seen that done. And after you get done doing that, it's always like, well, this doesn't even feel realistic. I wish they'd make the game harder or something like that. That's what he's playing on Heisman mode. And it's just made it too easy for himself.
Yeah, and I played on Heisman mode. I can't do that. Even in video games, I can't pull that off.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's unprecedented. Maybe you get older rosters. I mean, I think the average age of that roster is 23 years old.
Yeah.
I think that becomes a realer and realer conversation as we get more examples.
Yeah, and certainly Nebraska basketball has got an older roster as well as part of their rise. So that'll be interesting. Part of the interesting part of that for both programs is the sustainability of it, and can you if you're going to do it with older rosters, or can you kind of rotate the next guy in? How much of it is the coaching staff? And it obviously has to be a big part in Cignetti's case going back to football because you've done it with 2 different quarterbacks. But how much of it is Mendoza? I mean, having a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in the backfield also is a huge shot in the arm, and maybe the reason why they were able to take that next step this year.
Yeah, but I mean, last year it was Curtis Rourke.
Curtis Rourke.
What's Rourke doing right now? Exactly.
Yeah.
You
I'm not
know,
sure.
so, they remanded to the college football playoffs with the Maple Rifle, I think was his dub nickname.
Oh, I love Curtis Rourke.
Yeah, and he was a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong, but he wasn't in the Heisman race. But it just kind of shows you, like, I know Mendoza, he's going to be off probably the first round pick unless the Raiders do something drastic and they decide to trade down, which I don't think they will. But like next year, I think they'll just go find another quarterback that just plugs into that system. Like it's again really small sample size, but they were pretty close to this last year with Curtis Rourke, and not a whole lot changed. They got a new quarterback, a few new pieces, but now they just want a championship, and they're going to get their pick of the litter for the portal and anything else they really want to do. And they obviously double down on Cignetti. His staff's going to be paid well. I think they'll reload. Like, I have no reason to doubt they can't just go get the next quarterback and probably have more guys in the Heisman race.
And it certainly is interesting, too, even in Big Ten discussions, because we can sit here and pound the table and say, yes, the Big Ten wins again, and look down at the SEC, which we'll take our chances to do. Don't get me wrong. But as Nebraska doesn't necessarily, I don't know how much it reflects back on Nebraska. But when you think specifically about what Curt Cignetti has done, we say it applies pressure and all this stuff, but think about being the individual fan bases, even within the Big Ten. Oregon's been incredible for the 20-year run that they've been able to put on, turn around from an historic low program to a team that now you talk to young people, they think they're a blue blood, and they haven't won a national championship. But that's the point, is they've gotten close. They've went through their ups and downs through the, from the start of it, kind of the Joey Harrington run to getting Marcus Mariota in that group to the championship game.
The golden Scott Frost offensive coordinator era.
Absolutely. That era that they hold so high up. But then, even to these past couple of years being the number one seed last year, all of that. And Cignetti walks into Indiana and gets it done in 2 years. Like, that is crazy. And then you've got, obviously, from the non-blue blood in Oregon that's been trying to rise up to be that team in college football, and certainly has been a top 10 program over the last 20 years, to looking at the Nebraskas and the Penn States of the world, who once were those teams. And certainly Penn State's got a little bit of a different example than Nebraska. They've been close, but not able to quite get there. Certainly Michigan would be in that category if they didn't get to the mountaintop just a couple of years ago. But it's just crazy, again, when you say it as a whole. It certainly is. They apply pressure to every college football program, but when you look at some of them, set aside by themselves and compare it to Indiana and Cignetti, and just go, it makes it even more amazing just to think what he's done there. Because then the next step would have been, and that's what I wondered was he going to take the Penn State job? Could he, if this is what he can do at Indiana, what can he do at a power program? And he said, you know what, I'll just stay at Indiana and win a national championship. And he did. And it is absolutely incredible. Just wish we had a few more years from Cignetti, because he is 64 years old already.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, imagine what I had those same conversations. Like, man, imagine Cignetti with the Nike factory behind him, or, if he's down there at Penn State, what he could do. And to your point, no, I'll just go win it now. Year two, that's plenty enough time to get my system in place. And obviously, he had that carryover with a lot of those James Madison guys. That certainly helped, kickstart his run over there at Indiana. But yeah, I can't make the equation make sense at all. Like, he has to know something that nobody else does, whether it's, I don't want to call him like Michigan. I don't want to say they're cheating. I don't think that's the case. But, how has those guys clicking so well? I don't know what it could be, because you hear him talk about practices as well. And he's at the comments like, listen, I tell my guys like an hour 45 at most. So it's not like he's running, it's a grind program. We work harder than anybody else. We work longer. We're deeper into the night. We put more into it. Maybe off the field stuff, but it's an hour 45. He talks about, getting his coaches out of there as well and keep them on like a healthy schedule, seeing their family. It's not the kind of comment you would expect, like an absolute maniac who's running practices 24/7, who's breaking the rules on how often they can practice to be able to pull this off in 2 years. But then you hear him talk, and yeah, he's a very intense guy, but the way he operates his practices is doing a little bit different than I think people anticipate. He's getting his guys out at a reasonable time. He's getting his coaches out. He's not making them, I think he had the comment, like, as soon as they're done with their work, they're good to go. He doesn't make them stay over extra just to do extra work, like just get what you need done, and then that's all I need from you. So I mean, I have no idea. I try to think about all the time, like, what do you think Indiana has figured out that no one else has? Because again, that was a program that no one even thought about. The inside of not our Memorial Stadium, but their Memorial Stadium was just flat out pathetic. on College game days.
Yeah.
No one was there. And I don't blame the fan base because there was nothing to watch. And in 2 years, it's not just the national championship. It was the no doubt national champ. Like, you got any idea what they could be? Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Certainly, because everything that you do have is just kind of is traditional, like a chip on their shoulder, sure, but a lot of people have a chip on their shoulder.
Exactly.
And once you get that big win, is that chip on your shoulder not lesser? It seems to kind of stick there for Indiana. Get a group of players from James Madison. Maybe that's the deal. Coach up a nucleus and then bring them to your next stop. But how replicable is that? We see that from teams, right? And we see that, we're going to see that more and more often, probably because after this, but we already, that's already been part of a formula before. It doesn't seem that he's doing anything too incredibly different, but he's got, incredible front line. It's just everybody, special teams, defense, offense. It's just all working together. It's incredible to see. Now, a part of what I'm interested too, again, is what I said is the staying power of Indiana football, and if it's going to be a dominant powerhouse into the future. And we'll see that if that happens under Cignetti. Good news for Nebraska as we look at the Wall Street Journal here. Nebraska football listed at $1.2 billion worth of valuation, which comes in at 10th across college football. Again, this from a CBS report on the Wall Street Journal's annual study of college football's wealthiest programs. Very interesting, as the Wall Street Journal notes. You might have thought with, sharing revenue with the players, all that sort of stuff, maybe it'd be kind of hard to figure out where all this money is going to come from. Well, apparently not. Apparently the college football playoff, everything, the Big Ten, the TV revenue deals, all that sort of stuff, coming together pretty well. College football programs have increased by 46% year over year within the nation's top 20 programs. Nebraska being part of that. So again, Nebraska lands at number 10. I'll go through the top 10 here. Texas is the number one valued program with close to $2.2 billion worth is where they land on Texas. Texas A&M coming in at second, close to $1.6 billion. Ohio State also a shade under $1.6 billion, a little bit less than Texas A&M. LSU in that same category, $1.54 for them at number 4. Michigan at $1.46 billion. Notre Dame at 1.41 is number 6. Number 7, you got Georgia at 1.47. I must have a misprint there. It must be along the same lines there, because Penn State's at 1.41 at number 8. Alabama at 1.4 at number 9. Nebraska at $1.2 billion is where they're valued at number 10. Won't go through the numbers, but Oklahoma number 11, Washington 12, Tennessee 13, Auburn 14, Iowa 15. That's the split where you stop from the billion-dollar programs. USC coming in at 16 at $999 million, so they're not too far off. Then you have Florida, Wisconsin, Oregon, and Colorado rounding out the top 20 there. And if you do the math there, that's 9 SEC programs, 9 Big Ten programs, Notre Dame and Colorado. So kind of interesting to see those specific programs get in there. I would assume Colorado might not have been in that discussion previous to Deion Sanders.
I'm surprised they still did that well.
I'm surprised as well. But it is crazy to see now billions being thrown out for a single program and a Nebraska program. But again, I think the excitement here, one, going back to where we started this, is with Indiana, is a program able to rise like that? I mean, to be into this discussions, we'll see. Again, that Colorado example might say yes, we'll see. But it was kind of interesting to watch, like a Golden State, if you watch that over the years, them go from one of the mid-level NBA teams to the top valued NBA team, of course, because of their on-court success and the branding that went with that. So that's why I'm interested to see if that happens here. Of course, it's kind of the opposite type of question there with Nebraska. If Nebraska is still the 10th most valued program across college football, man, what a couple wins might do for that.
Yeah. I mean, first thing that sticks out with those numbers is everyone's wondering, like, man, how are we able to pay all these guys, X million dollars to come play for these universities? Well, there you go. I mean, billions of dollars. That's how much money is going in there. But I mean, it just says a lot, though, that Nebraska's still in this mix. And, we stick out like a sore thumb, maybe us in Colorado because of the seasons we've had. But, with Colorado makes sense with the hype around Deion. But it just tells you that when people talk about the 90s and Husker football and like how crazy Lincoln was, it adds up because Nebraska is always hovering in those conversations. And we know it hasn't been great here, but the fact that they're still up there says a lot about, people are just, although the conversations might have changed a lot, like we know very well that when we roll around the fall and the weather starts getting a little, it get a little bit cooler and football starts creeping in, like people are going to be fired up for it. And if you give some reasons to buy in, Husker fans are always willing to buy in if you just give them a few results. So, who knows? You win a few big games. We talked about the schedule coming up here. There's going to be plenty of big games on that upcoming schedule. And if you can turn out a good season, Nebraska will climb up there. I don't know what the ceiling is, but it says a lot. I mean, just to be in there right now with the seasons that we've had in recent history.
And it is crazy just to kind of live throughout the changes in Nebraska football. We all know too, is I'm old enough to remember when people would complain and College Game Day wouldn't show a Nebraska as part of the reels to the opening. Like, no Nebraska reels. What are they doing? They're freezing out Nebraska. Now I'm pretty surprised when I see a college football reel and it has a Nebraska game in it. Obviously, because Nebraska just needs to win more of those big games. So it is interesting to see where that's come. But the brand, the staying power of Nebraska, and a lot of that goes out to you, the fans, of course, for sticking by the program through some tough years, and hopefully a brighter future is ahead. All right, let's go ahead and take a break. We'll wrap up things on Bock of the Blackshirt coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
When you were a kid, clubs were cool. Robotics club and space club and stuff like that. But what do adults get? Book clubs and quilting clubs? Nah, forget that. How about margarita clubs and old-fashioned clubs? Get to Upside Bar and Lounge for the best clubs in town. Try all 10 varieties of Upside margaritas or old fashions and take home a free souvenir glass. Grab the whole crew and pair it with taco night on Mondays or whiskey Wednesdays. Upside Bar and Lounge at 29th and Pine Lake. Select Plumbing and Utility has been serving Lincoln and the surrounding area for 14 years, and they're not slowing down. Select Plumbing and Utility handles all your plumbing needs, from faucets and water heaters to full renovations, and they can even help with your heating and cooling needs. They're also Lincoln's underground experts, repairing and replacing broken underground water and sewer lines since day one. Contact Select Plumbing and Utility today at 402-560-6197, assuring excellence in every situation, opportunity, and challenge. That's 402-560-6197.
Concrete Industries has immediate job openings for precast production laborers and maintenance technicians. Concrete Industries offers great pay, health benefits, 401k, a wellness program, holidays, and paid time off. Apply today to earn a starting pay of $21.50 per hour plus a $1,500 hiring bonus. Concrete Industries is hiring all experience levels and offers on-the-job training. Start your career today as a precast production laborer or maintenance technician. Visit concreteindustries.com.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines. Now boarding. Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Mike, the insurance company wants us to replace the roof.
Wait, what? I thought everything was fine.
Yeah, it says right here our roof is too old and they won't be able to cover us anymore.
I guess it is 15 years old. Hi, I'm Austin with Roofing Service Company. We help homeowners with their roofing and siding projects. Financing options are available, and we can get you under a new roof no time at all. If this sounds like you, visit roofingservicecompany.com. That is roofingservicecompany.com.
Just got the brakes fixed on my car today. You did? You haven't even left the office. I didn't need to. I got a guy who picks up my car and drops it off when it's done.
Who's your guy?
Graham Tire. They have pickup and delivery service at all 5 of their Lincoln locations.
Schedule your service online on the Pickup and Delivery tab at GrahamTireLincoln.com. That's GrahamTireLincoln.com. Let us do the running. Some limitations apply. See store for details.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G165184. 2,500 down with proof credit.
Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket immediately after every Nebraska men's basketball game for 1 hour of post-game recap. The Nebraska Basketball Postgame Show is sponsored by Union Bank and Trust, John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical, and the Lincoln Airport on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
Final segment here for the week on Bock and the Blackshirt. Thanks for joining us once again. Terrell Farley will be back next week, so we look forward to that. A few different football things to hash out before we get done with this, and one is just the update that the college football playoff will remain at 12 teams for the 2026 season. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey has publicly supported a 16-team model, but the Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti would only agree if Sankey committed to a 24-team field after 3 years. The Big Ten also interested in seeing how the selection committee will evaluate teams this upcoming year after the SEC and ACC move to 9-game conference schedules. There's an expectation that there will be more 2- and 3-loss teams for the group to consider because of that. Of course, the SEC had like 7 10-win teams this year, a lot of that with some easier non-con schedules. So very interesting to see how all of that is shaking out. This upcoming season, by the way, they did make the changes to the college football playoff that the Power 4 conference champions will be guaranteed a spot in the 12-team field. That means Duke football would have made it this past year.
Oh, so Miami would have been out.
Miami would have been out. Yeah, they would. If they go along, if the changes they're making would take Miami out this year, because the highest ranked conference champion from the group of 6 now, including Pac-12, will be also included. So Notre Dame, the other thing is Notre Dame will be a lock for the playoffs if it finishes in the selection committee's top 12. So you always got to have special rules for Notre Dame.
Real quick, how do you feel about that one? That one to me stinks.
It is. It's Notre Dame rules. Back in the BCS era, if they went 10-2, they made it to a BCS bowl. There was no argument about it. That's just so they've got their own little rules throughout college football history. And again, I get it. They should move to, like, if it was fair and equal and all this sort of stuff, they should get to a conference. But they have a lot of leverage. That's why they're not doing this, because they make a lot of money doing it by themselves. And college football just generally bows down to them in these championship scenarios. So why not? Now, obviously, they were frustrated this past season with what happened. And again, with these rule changes, now this past year, Duke and Notre Dame would have both qualified for the playoffs, and Miami would have been excluded, so we wouldn't have had that run. So it's kind of interesting. The adjustments that are usually made don't eliminate sometimes they do eliminate the team that made the run, I suppose. Back in the BCS days, they would change things often in their calculations based on that. But that's what we're going with here. You're happy with the 12-team field. You don't want to see an expanded field?
Yeah, no, I'm not big on that. Like we all like more football games, but I like meaningful football games. I don't want to get into this space. Like if we let the money decide where this goes, like, well, you guys some might be happy with the 16, 18, then we'll be up to 24, and then we'll get to 32. Like, I think if we start expanding this thing, like, well, you start giving those TV deals, like the Power and these conferences, all this ability to make money. Like, I'm a big believer, like the student part still matters. And, if we're going to expand this thing more and more, how are you going to fit those? Then you have to maybe eliminate conference championship games. You're going to have to really start reworking the entire schedule again. 12 that's enough for me to figure out who the best team is. Obviously Miami this year maybe surprised people, but I think if you start going any further than that, like, sure, we can argue about, the 17th or 18th team that shouldn't get in there that got cut. If we're expanded to 18, we can talk about the 19th or 20th team. That conversation is going to exist no matter what we do. So to me, this is a good enough number, maybe a little bit more, but I feel like once we start hanging in that direction, like, we're just going to get crazier with these conversations, and we'll be in a 32 team before we know it.
And of course, the bigger the postseason, the less the regular season matters. And the SEC is a little bit worried about that if you go to 24. It's just kind of funny because the SEC's arguments are now basically what any argument is in front of 16-team playoffs. But 24, that's too much. Which, again, I can understand, right? There is maybe a certain number that you eventually get to. But 16 seems like a lot to me in devaluing these things. But they're worried about it specifically, the SEC championship game, which brings in a lot of money for them. If you go to 24 teams, what spot is there for a conference championship game? Now, I'm not talking about just within the schedule, which is difficult enough, but I mean, how much would it matter to win a conference champion if 24 teams, conference championship, if 24 teams get to play for a national championship?
It already, the conference championship games, like, even with this 12 system, feels awkward at times, because we had the Georgia-Alabama one where, Alabama finishes with like negative rushing yards. You're looking at that game like, boy, should they be punished for making it to the SEC championship game? Because they looked horrible in that championship game. And then do you reward other teams for making it? Or then you obviously had the Miami situation in the ACC, and it's like, you have Duke. Do you credit them for making the conference championship game? Well, obviously they didn't. They ended up going with Miami because I can't remember exactly how all the tiebreakers went down and how they landed on it. But it's already in a weird spot with these conference championship games. If we get to a point where we're expanding it, like, you're almost going to have to eliminate them or figure out a way to format them into the playoff. And even then, that's got a ton of problems in itself, because trying to schedule conference championship games into the playoff, like, obviously there's going to be issues you run into there where it's not fair. So we're already at a point where these conference championship games look kind of funky. If we expand it more, you almost imagine we'd have to get rid of a lot of them.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case. But as you said, it'll only be a matter of time. There will be a 24-team playoff at some point in our lifetimes. I can certainly predict and see that happening. But we'll see. I guess, I was long, you protect the regular season. And I personally, as it kind of gets, when you start to talk about 16 or 24, you've kind of already lost the point in my mind. So I guess 12 is fine. It's a little bit different. A little bit more than I would like to see, but any more than that is you've already kind of gone over my fear and concern about the regular season being devalued. It is just what it is now. But thanks again to Harrison Arns for joining in with me today. Thanks to everybody who helped fill in with me throughout the week. Terrell Farley again. We'll be back on Bock and the Blackshirt. Old school coming next. Harrison, what you got?
We got Jay Foreman leading the show. He's got a full slate of notes there. We don't have a ton of time here left, but a little bit cover the same topics, and then he's got some Husker football he definitely wants to dive into.
There we go. Old school coming up next with Jay Foreman and Harrison Arns on 93.7 The Ticket.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1990.